Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Switched at Birth, Season 3, Episode 17, I believe. What episode was this? Episode 17, Girl with Death Mask She Plays Alone. This episode was probably the best episode of the season. I absolutely love this episode. It was amazing, and even though I don't like, some of the characters are doing, I think it's definitely going to be very interesting. It's interesting to see how they react to Angelo's death. That's pretty much what this episode was them reacting to Angelo's death. Specifically, Bay and Daphne. Catherine's plot, not really. Toby's plot, not really, but let's get to the episode. The main plot of this episode had to do with Bay and Daphne. They're both still grieving over Angelo. So John and Catherine suggested they take a trip to Chicago, and basically, Bay went to Chicago to meet with Angelo's cousin because, and the reason this happened is because, you know how Bay called Angelo's mom over the phone? Yeah, well, she does not know how to use the internet, so she wants Bay to go over there to deliver the news to her cousin, so that way her cousin knows, what's going on, with, that Angelo died and everything. So, Bay decides to do that, and Daphne goes over there, basically to look at colleges, because there's a pre-med school in Chicago that she was planning on, possibly applying to, and we'll get to Daphne's help, but let's first get to Bay. Bay meets up with her cousin, and her cousin seems to be very bitter over Angelo dying. He seems to be very bitter over Angelo, kind of jealous of Angelo, and we don't really know why he's so, jealous of Angelo. There's something going on between him and Angelo, though, that there's something going on between them that, is not good, between them. And basically, him and Bay, they're talking and everything, and Bay ends up knocking over one of his this statue, or this vase or a statue or something that she tries to she brushes it and it breaks, and she gets upset and everything. She tells John, and John says to go back over there, and she goes back over there, and basically she finds out this huge thing that Angelo actually did not die because he had of the car accident. He died because he had a brain aneurysm, which, is a very big thing. He had a brain aneurysm, so really, Regina had nothing to do with it, and had nothing to do with the fighting. He would have just died anyway because he had a brain aneurysm. And basically what ended up happening was, we find out that, that Angelo actually had a sister that Bay did not know about. And, Bay's cousin shows her this photo of a girl who is 18, just like Bay. And this really scares Bay, because obviously, Bay is 18. She's worried something bad's gonna happen to her. But it seems like everything's okay with Bay. It seems like everything's okay now. And, yeah, so we'll have to see what ends up happening. He tells her she's gonna be okay and everything. And, we'll have to see what happens in the, next episode, because it's definitely gonna be interesting with that. Now, as far as Daphne goes, there's a little bit more to talk about. Daphne is reacting in a very rebellious ways to Regina. She does not want anything to do with Regina. She does not trust Regina right now. She does not want to talk to Regina right now. She wants nothing to do with Regina. Regina gets brought in the conversation. Daphne does not want to listen because she's pissed at Regina, because she is still convinced that Regina is the person that killed Angelo. She's pretty sure it was Regina that caused it, pretty much. Which is not true. It's not Regina at all that caused it. And, it's pretty much bullshit, but Daphne, it was interesting to see how she reacted to Angelo's death. Basically, what ended up happening is that Daphne is starting to act in very rebellious ways. She goes over to the college, and she gets a text from Regina saying, is everything okay and everything. She's going through, looking at colleges, and she starts to ask this guy there, hey, is there, any, drinks or anything? And he tells her they're gonna smoke pot, and she decides to smoke pot behind Regina's back because she doesn't really care. She ends up getting very rebellious and crazy. She gets up going crazy to the point where she was okay with throwing his chair out the window, and she just gets all crazy over it. And, yeah, so I thought that was definitely a very big thing, that was definitely, very, very big, and I was very, surprised by that. I mean, that was huge right there. That was really big, definitely. And, She almost she almost destroys this guy's laptop, but he, gets her not to. And as she does eventually go back to Bay, and she tells Bay that she thinks that Regina's the person that killed Angelo. And Bay tells her Regina nothing to do with it, but Daphne is still upset. She's like, you actually, feel bad for her. So there's still a lot of tension between Regina and Daphne. There's still a lot of tension between them. It seems like it's going to be like this for a while, and it seems like Daphne is going to continue to be rebellious, because in the promo for next week we saw her being rebellious, and this week she was rebellious, so it's definitely going to continue as it goes on. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens as the show, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next week. That's something going to be interesting. So the next thing to talk about is Toby. Toby's plot I love. Toby's plot probably was my favorite in the episode. I thought his plot was definitely very, very good, and I really enjoyed it. Toby, as we know, he is trying to become a DJ, and he's hosting this party, and he still has his own apartment, and basically he decides that, basically he wants to host this party, and his neighbor, I think her name was Lisa, I believe, I think that was her name, she's complaining, basically, saying how she keeps hearing noise. She keeps hearing noise and she wants to keep it down. He gives her a flyer to come to his party, to come to his gig. He says, okay, I'll keep it down if you come to my gig. And she at first says no, but she then decides to come to it. And eventually, so yeah, she comes to it. And eventually what ends up happening is Emmett and Mary Beth go over, to the gig with Toby as well. And basically what ends up happening is they spot Tank. Now, obviously, Emmett knows that Tank is very furious at him and does not want to get into a bad situation with him. So Mary Beth basically has Emmett pretend to be Travis, and I thought that was kind of funny the way that was working out. He has to try to pretend to be Travis, and Tank actually seems pretty happy to see them. He sees Toby and everything. He's in a good mood. But the only problem is Tank is drunk. And it was interesting to see Tank again, by the way. Definitely that was very interesting. I liked the returns of certain characters in this episode. I thought that was kind of cool. His plot was definitely, very interesting. And basically he's drunk and everything. And he's talking with Emmett. And he sees that Travis... And the only problem is it's going well until the actual Travis comes by. And he, of course, thinks that Emmett is Travis, but unfortunately, one of Emmett's teachers, that girl, that saw Toby before, is, one of Emmett's teachers, and she says, that Emmett's a high school student, he shouldn't be drinking beer, because, Tank offers Emmett a beer, and Emmett almost takes it. However, before he takes it, that girl comes over and kind of ruins it, and basically, Tank realizes that it is Emmett, and Tank's about to punch Emmett, but before anything bad can happen, he ends up crashing into a pool table, and so that was really sad for him, definitely. So Toby decides to come up to Tank, and he sees that Tank, is in very bad shape. He's still drunk, he's still upset over losing Bay, obviously. And Toby wants to talk to Tank. We kind of find out some things about Tank that was kind of interesting. We find out that fraternity that he decided to leave, he had a roommate there who has a girlfriend, and there's this girl that lives by there who he'd like to get to know. The problem is, this guy has not been speaking to him ever since Tank quit that fraternity, and he kind of feels upset that he, quit the fraternity. And Toby decides, tells him he needs a roommate, and basically Toby decides to give Tank his room, and that girl, Lisa, I think her name is, it seems like her and Tank actually have some chemistry going on, possibly. We'll have to see what happens with them. And it's going to be interesting to see if something happens between them. That's definitely going to be interesting, to see what happens there. So, as far as their plot went, I really enjoyed it, and I thought their plot was definitely very well done. I really enjoyed that, definitely. And it was probably my favorite plot of the episode. On to my second favorite plot of the episode. Yes, the two main plots were not my favorite, but I did love, Catherine's plot. The return of Renzo, and I'll get to that in a second, but I was so happy about that. But basically, as we know, if you remember, and I actually forgot about this, there was that gay couple, Leo and his partner, I don't remember what his partner's name was, but they, of course, had Angelo's baby, who, of course, Angelo let them basically be the legal, have full custody of the baby, however, Angelo could sometimes visit it. And because Angelo died, you know, they're trying to find a new person to take care of the baby. And we basically find out that Leo's partner actually left him months ago, and, you know, he's kind of having a hard time raising this baby on his own. He's kind of having a hard time raising this baby on his own, and he wants someone else to help him. So, Catherine decides to set him up on a date with Renzo. You know, Renzo wants to help him out and everything, and it was great to see Renzo again. I really miss Renzo. You know, one of the things I love about Renzo's character is he brings so much life to the show. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but in my opinion, Renzo brings so much life to this show. He's so fun to watch. I just can't get enough of Renzo. He's so fun to watch. Really, he really is. He's a great character, and that's one of the reasons why I love Renzo's character, because he's always fun to watch. Basically, Renzo goes over and he's making dinner, and he's not doing a very good job because he actually really likes Leo. He has a crush on him, and you know, he really likes Leo, and he's very, you know, concerned because he's worried everything's going wrong, and he tells Catherine, "What am I doing wrong?" And basically, him and Leo, you know, Leo realizes that he's, you know, a very good guy and everything, but he's not ready to basically start dating again or whatever. And the biggest surprise of the episode, I thought this was actually probably one of the biggest shockers, is we find out that Catherine is actually going to raise this baby on her own, and they now have, you know, someone from Angelo's family. But John did not actually seem happy about it. He said, "Look, we're going to talk about this later," because you see John, and he's like, "We're going to talk about this later." So obviously John's not okay with it, so we're going to have to see what happens there. Something going to be interesting to see what happens there. But, yeah, that was definitely very interesting, and I was very, you know, like, that was definitely very interesting in my opinion. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen in the next episode. But overall, this episode is definitely very, very good. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought this was probably the best episode of the season, in my opinion. Was it as good as last week's episode? No. Last week's episode was the saddest, and, you know, it was definitely very well done, but I really liked this episode as well. And one of the things I loved, also, is the promo for next week's episode looks incredible. It looks like next week, Daphne's going to continue to make very rebellious decisions. It's interesting to see her make these very rebellious decisions. I'm interested in seeing where this is going to go. You know, she's making very rebellious decisions and everything. Looks like next week's episode, everyone's going to do something crazy, because they said, you know, crazy episode next week. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next week. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Is John okay with having this new baby around the house? I mean, John said we'll talk about it later, so is he upset about it? We'll have to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Is Regina going to be able to gang back Daphne's trust? At this point, Daphne cannot trust her because, you know, she's still grieving over Angelo, obviously, so it's going to be interesting to see how she acts out. As far as as far as Tank and this new girl goes, do you think they're going to possibly have a relationship? We'll have to see what happens there. That's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens there. And, Renzo. Did you like seeing Renzo again? I personally love seeing Renzo again. He's always fun to watch. You know, it was great to see Renzo again. And I really like seeing his character again. But that's basically it for my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of The Fosters, which I'm going to watch right now. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.